Last week we were very productive in our community, 5 trades and 9,000 in profit. How could you capitalize on that? Because of the signals, of course. I think it's not secret that trading signals are a very simple and effective tool to increase your capital, especially if you are just starting out. To find a good trader is a hard challenge, but in this video I'll show you how I think and what strategy I use when I'm making the trades. And whether you trust me or not is up to you. Now I'm going to review my last 2 trades, which were as simple and obvious as possible. Everyone could have made such trades, and there are a lot of similar situations on the stock market lately. Those who used my recommendations were able to achieve a very good result. First of all, let's look at the simplest trade on the euro to Canadian dollar pair. I had posted a signal on this trade in my Telegram channel, and this trade brought me 2,000. Here is the story for the last week, and here is this trade 2000, as you can see. Let's take a close look at the chart. By the way, the indicator below is called RSI Divergence indicator. It is a very handy thing that allows us to automatically look for a divergence between the oscillator and the chart. If you don't want to get to the heart of it, just add it to the chart and I will teach you how to use it. So what we see here, first of all, we have an aggressive price fall, and right now I want to highlight some resistance level because this is probably a trend line which we will break and retest. In general, until recently it was a fallen wedge which we broke through, so such an aggressive fall definitely made me want to follow this chart, and not so far I saw something very interesting on it. Yes, we have just broken through the fallen wedge. In fact, we are coming out of the figure, but I always enter trade after at least a few confirming factors, and one of the confirming factors should be a retest. So we have a retest right now. Let's see what will happen next. Here we have another retest. There we have a smaller fallen wedge, so all I need to do is to wait for the next exit from this fallen wedge. Here we can basically draw something like this, but the most important thing is that we have broken through and tested a big fallen wedge. Where can the price go after the retest of this trend line? We can make it more bold. It is very important for us. Of course, we take such a tool as Fibonacci's level and just stretch the grid from the maximum to the minimum value. So our correction target is 0.5 for Fibonacci. Let's now open such a tool as long position. I will put my entry point at this level. Take profit is the first of the only one at this level. So now we need to move a stop loss in such a way that the risk reward will be from 1 to 2. Well, our top will be at this level, which means that if we go back behind this trend line, our scenario will be cancelled, because after the breakdown we will not have any return to the level of 0.5 on Fibonacci. Most likely we will go further. This signal was perfectly described in my Telegram channel. Here we have a buy point. Take profit is just the level of 0.5 of Fibonacci, and stop loss we have set according to the risk reward from 1 to 2. Sometimes we set stop loss over the imbalance zone. Basically we can also include this indicator, but in this case if we set stop over the imbalance zone, we will have to move or take much higher than the 0.5 zone, most likely even the 618 zone, but it will turn out to be a little bit risky. So my trade in this case looks like this. By the way, you can add all of the indicators absolutely free on the TradingView platform. Just write its name. In this situation I'm using just technical analysis and literally the simplest tools which are available to each of you. Let's see how this trade works out. This trade works itself out very quickly. It took literally a few hours because this is a 15-minute time frame in one day. I mean, within one day, this trade closed and brought me, let me remind you, 10,000 to my deposit. This signal was in the Telegram channel. We fixed the profit together. Let's take a look at the second simple trade, but on gold. The signal was also published in my Telegram channel, and this trade brought me, attention, not less than previous one, 1,745. Not a bad trade, also with risk reward 1.2. Analyzing the gold chart, I understand anyway that here we have a sideways movement, and when there is a sideways movement in the stock market, I always use one very popular tool. It's a fixed volume profile. We define the sideways here. We have the approximate beginning on the sideways. So this is the place where we left the sideways. When we pull the volume profile, we realize that we have 3 key zones here, which we can test one way or another, and which will be a clear signal to find a position. So here we have zone number 1, here we have zone number 2, the most important one, and here we have zone number 3. We can basically close this tool so that it does not interfere with us. Here we have the 3 most important zones. Of course, we have already reached the first zone, but we haven't had a signal here yet. So let's see what's happening with the chart next. And we have the same aggressive fall as on the previous signal from the previous currency pair. Here we have another doji candle, which signals us that in the particular place we are getting strong buyers. And if you remember, this horizontal line is just our central volume profile. So when we test it, we clearly understand that the stock market has reached its certain target and is ready to move to the next target. So what can be the next target? It's, for example, an update of the maximum value. Plus, it's not shown on the automatic indicator yet, but here we have a bullish divergence because we have an update of the minimum local value. And here we have no update on the RSI. This is despite the fact that we already had the indicator unloaded. Here is literally one candle, and we have a bullish divergence, which is also a good buy signal. So we entered at these prices. The workout was at the level of the last local maximum value. So we do not invent absolutely nothing new, we just make a simple transaction. Yes, this transaction was a little bit longer than initially planned by me, but still after a while we reached the target, and here we updated this maximum. Let's open the long position tool. We had an entry at this mark. Of course, we had a stop at the last minimum, and here we have a good match because the risk reward was 1.95 plus or minus from 1 to 2. It was a good trade. Yes, it closed the next day, but still this trade brought us not much more than a little 1,745. After all of the sharp falls or sharp rises, no matter what they are related to, financial news or liquidity withdrawal or any other stock market plans, but when we have a sharp movement in the stock market, it's always an opportunity to open a position. That's why I always open positions only when there is a setup. I'm very selective in my trade selection. As you could see, in these trades we didn't use any complex instruments because in fact their usage is not required. I work only with my psychology, and all of my trades are as simple, as understandable as possible, even for beginners traders. If you want to trade with us, follow the link from the description. Thank you for watching this video. See you all soon. Bye bye.